if you're sitting across the table from someone right now, or, even just arguing with your partner in the kitchen, and you find yourself asking the question, who is winning?
You've already lost.
Exactly. You have already lost. Welcome to the Biz English channel, our YouTube channel podcast. We are just, absolutely thrilled to have you joining us for today's discussion.
It's going to get a good one.
It really is. But right off the bat, do us a huge favor. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and please share your opinions in the comments section below as we go along. We honestly read every single one.
Oh, dear. We love hearing from you guys.
Yeah, so today we're basically entirely redefining how you handle conflicts and disagreements in your life. We're taking negotiation out of this stressful zero-sum battlefield realm.
Right, because that battlefield mentality, it's just so deeply ingrained in us.
Totally.
Most of us view negotiation as this game where, my gain automatically has to be your loss. So our mission today is to completely tear down that paradigm.
I love that.
We're going to explore a framework that shows you how to stop fighting over who gets the biggest piece of the pie and start figuring out how to bake an entirely different pie together.
Okay, but I kind of want to push back on that right away, though.
Sure, go for it.
Because my default instinct, and honestly, I think the default instinct for anyone listening who has ever, bought a used car or negotiated a salary.
Right, the stressful stuff.
Exactly. The instinct is that when two people want completely opposite things, someone simply has to lose. Or, at best, you painfully grind each other down until you meet in the middle and split things 50-50.
The classic compromise.
Right. Isn't a compromise the only realistic outcome when your interests just completely collide?
See, that instinct is precisely what traps us in terrible deals.
Mm-hmm.
Assuming that someone has to lose or that a 50-50 split is the highest ideal, it happens because we become completely fixated on positions rather than interests.
Okay, positions versus interests. Break that down for me.
Yeah, let me paint a picture of how this usually plays out. So imagine two guys sitting in the small reading room in a library, and they are fiercely arguing.
Over a book.
Over a window, actually. One guy wants the window wide open. He insists he desperately needs the fresh air.
Okay, makes sense.
But the other guy wants that exact same window firmly closed because the draft from the window is blowing his paperwork all over the desk.
Right, so they're completely gridlocked. Because, if they compromise and leave it half open, they're both just miserable.
Exactly. One guy still doesn't have enough air, and the other guy's papers are still blowing around.
Nobody wins.
Right. Their positions are completely incompatible. A position is simply the rigid demand you make, like open this window versus close this window.
Okay. So what's the interest then?
Well, in walks the librarian. And she doesn't waste time arguing about their positions. She focuses on their interests, which is the underlying why behind their demands.
Ah, I see.
She listens to the first man and understands his hidden interest is getting fresh air into the room. Then she listens to the second man, and she understands his hidden interest is just avoiding a direct draft.
So she finds the core problem. What does she do?
She walks into the adjoining room and simply opens a window in there. Fresh air circulates into the reading room, but there's no direct breeze to blow the papers around.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Right. By ignoring the rigid positions and solving for the underlying interest, both men are completely satisfied.
That reframes the entire concept of a conflict. It's not about the window at all. It's about the air.
Exactly.
It actually reminds me of this classic negotiation story about two kids fighting over a single orange. Have you heard this one?
I love the orange story. Yeah, tell it.
So they're going back and forth, endlessly shouting, I want the orange. No, I want the orange. A parent walks in, sighs, takes a knife, and cuts the orange exactly down the middle.
Perfect 50-50 split.
Right, the perfectly fair compromise. But then the first kid eats the juicy fruit inside and literally throws the peel into the trash.
Yeah.
And the second kid takes their half, throws away the fruit entirely, and uses the peel to grate zest for a cake they're baking.
It's just tragic, really.
It is, because if the parent had just paused to ask, wait, why do you want this orange? Both kids could have walked away with 100% of what they actually needed.
That story is the ultimate proof that compromise is often just, a failure of imagination.
A failure of imagination, I like that.
Positions are loud, they're rigid, and they're specific. But interests, they're hidden beneath the surface. They're wrapped up in our unstated needs and fears.
So how do you actually uncover them in the heat of the moment?
It requires genuine curiosity. You have to ask the other person, help me understand why this is so important to you.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, the delivery of that question matters immensely.
Like tone of voice.
Yeah, it cannot be an accusation. It has to be an invitation. When people feel that you are genuinely trying to understand their psychological landscape, their defenses just drop.
They stop seeing you as the enemy.
Exactly. They stop seeing you as an adversary and start to see you as a collaborator.
Okay, so we figure out their hidden motivation, and that works beautifully when our hidden interests happen to align, like the fruit and the peel.
Sure.
But let's look at reality for a second. What happens when those interests legitimately, fundamentally clash?
Give me an example.
Okay, let's say I'm renting an apartment. My landlord's underlying interest is maximizing their profit margin to pay off a mortgage, right?
Right.
And my underlying interest is minimizing my expenses so I can save up for my own house. There's no magic adjoining window to open there. We just fundamentally disagree on the rent price.
That is a very real scenario.
Yeah.
And it causes massive anxiety because it feels like an unavoidable collision.
Yeah, exactly.
So how do you break that stalemate without it devolving into a shouting match or someone just stubbornly walking away?
Well, I really want to dive into exactly how we solve that. But real quick, before we look at the solution, I want to turn to our audience.
Oh yeah, let's hear from them.
Have you ever been stuck endlessly arguing over a price or a rule or a contract where neither side would budge? Let us know in the comments right now how you handled it.
Did you walk away? Did you give in?
Yeah, share your stories below. And hey, if you are finding value in our channel today, please hit that subscribe button. Okay, so we have the landlord, we have the tenant, and we have a major clash. How do we bypass the stubbornness?
You have to remove ego from the equation entirely.
Easier said than done.
Totally. But you do it by relying on fair, objective standards. When you have a direct clash of interests, the moment the negotiation becomes a contest of who can yell the loudest or, who has the stronger will, the relationship is doomed.
So what's the alternative?
You need to introduce criteria that exist completely outside of either of your personal opinions.
Oh, I see. So you mean shifting the focus to something neither of us actually controls?
Yes, exactly.
Like, instead of arguing over what we feel a used car is worth, we just pull up the Kelley Blue Book value and base the discussion on that data.
That is a perfect application. Market prices, legal requirements, industry standards, expert opinions, these are all objective criteria.
Got it.
Let's consider hiring a contractor to pour a foundation for a house. Let's say the contract is kind of vague on the depth. The contractor wants to pour it 2 feet deep to save time and money.
Okay.
But you want it 5 feet deep because you're worried about stability. If you just haggle based on your positions, you might compromise at 3.5 feet.
Which is terrifying, because 3.5 feet isn't based on engineering reality.
No, not at all.
It's just arbitrary math used to stop an argument. Your house might still collapse.
And that is the exact danger of blind compromise. So instead of just demanding 5 feet, you shift the burden to an objective standard.
How does that sound in practice?
You ask the contractor, what are the local government's building codes for these specific soil conditions? What are the structural engineering standards for earthquake risk in this county?
Oh, that's smart.
Do you see the psychological shift there? You're no longer the difficult client making arbitrary demands.
Right, because I'm not the one saying, do it my way.
Exactly. You and the contractor are now sitting on the same side of the table, looking at the city code book together, letting the rules dictate the outcome.
It totally depersonalizes the conflict. It becomes us solving a puzzle instead of me fighting you.
Yes.
You know, that actually reminds me of the classic cake cutting rule for kids.
Oh, I use that one all the time.
Yeah. If 2 kids want to share a piece of cake fairly, the objective standard you use to prevent a fight is having one kid cut the cake, but letting the other kid choose their piece first.
The beauty of the cake cutting rule is that it leverages self-interest to enforce fairness.
Because the kid with the knife is sweating trying to get it exactly even.
Right. The person wielding the knife knows that if they make one piece even slightly larger, the other person will immediately claim it. The standard itself does the heavy lifting.
It eliminates the need for a subjective argument about what a fair slice even is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And once you remove that ego and
Yeah.
establish those objective standards, it naturally opens up the floor to actually be creative.
I feel like if we aren't fighting over who is right, we actually have the mental bandwidth to brainstorm.
You do.
But, I feel like brainstorming in negotiations almost always fails because the second someone pitches an idea, the other side immediately shoots it down. They're like, no, that won't work.
You've hit on a major psychological roadblock there. If you really want to invent options for mutual gain, you have to strictly separate the act of inventing from the act of deciding.
Okay, inventing versus deciding.
Yeah, in corporate environments, and honestly, even in marriages, we tend to evaluate an idea the millisecond it comes out of someone's mouth.
Right. Let's try this budget structure. No, accounting will hate it, and the idea is just dead in 2 seconds and everyone stops talking.
Because when you judge ideas prematurely, you trigger a fear of looking stupid. People will just stop suggesting things.
So how do you fix that?
You have to set explicit ground rules for a brainstorming phase.
Yeah.
You literally declare, for the next 20 minutes, we are only generating ideas. No criticism is allowed. We will evaluate them later.
Just free-flowing ideas.
And here is a counterintuitive insight for those sections. Differences are not your enemy. Differences are actually the raw materials for creative solutions.
Wait, how does that work? Usually our differences are the exact things we're fighting over.
Think back to our orange analogy. The only reason a perfect solution was possible was precisely because the two children wanted entirely different parts of the fruit.
Oh, right. Because if they both just wanted the juice, they really would have been stuck.
Exactly. In complex negotiations, your differences in priorities, in risk tolerance, in timelines, those are the puzzle pieces.
Give me a business example of that.
Okay, maybe a supplier needs cash flow immediately, but you need a lower overall price. You can agree to pay a higher upfront deposit in exchange for a 20% discount on the back end.
So your difference in timeline priorities just created a mutually beneficial option.
Precisely.
Man, logic and brainstorming and objective standards, they are incredibly powerful tools.
They really are.
But let's be entirely realistic for a moment. Human beings are messy, emotional creatures.
Very true.
It is incredibly difficult to sit there calmly asking about objective standards when the person across the table is acting arrogant, or they're insulting your intelligence, or they're just thoroughly rubbing you the wrong way.
Which brings us to the human element. And this is perhaps the most difficult mental discipline to master, separating the people from the problem.
How do you even do that when they're yelling at you?
When you walk into a room to resolve an issue, I highly recommend this visualization exercise. Picture a thick, heavy vertical line splitting the person across from you right down the middle.
Okay, a vertical line.
But on the left side of that line is the human being, their ego, their emotions, their pride. On the right side of the line is the actual problem you're trying to solve. You must keep them separated in your mind.
So if they are yelling about, say, a delayed shipment, I don't internalize it as them attacking my character.
Yeah.
I see the human being who is stressed out and the problem, which is just a logistics failure.
The mantra to internalize here is this: be soft on the person, but hard on the problem.
Soft on the person, hard on the problem. I like that.
We almost always get this backward. We are soft on the person because we desperately want to avoid conflict and be liked.
Right, people-pleasing.
Which leads us to be soft on the problem, resulting in a terrible deal for ourselves. Or, on the flip side, we decide we need to be hard on the problem, but we attack the person's competence at the same time.
You messed up the shipment, you're an idiot.
Exactly. And that ruins the relationship and guarantees they will dig their heels in.
But why do we do that? Why is it our instinct to attack the person when the problem is what actually needs fixing?
It comes down to biology, honestly. When we feel our ego or our position is being threatened, our amygdala, which is the emotion center of the brain, literally hijacks our prefrontal cortex.
The logical part.
Right, the part responsible for logical, rational thought. When anger enters the room, you are biologically incapable of creative problem solving.
Wow.
People confuse their own perceptions with objective reality. They misinterpret your words and assume the absolute worst about your intentions. You just cannot negotiate with a lizard brain.
So if anger physically shuts down the logical brain, how do you prevent that hijack from happening in the first place? Like, how do you keep the room calm?
You build a bridge before you ever need to cross it. The data on this is actually astounding.
Really? What does the data say?
Studies on dispute resolution show that simply taking the time to build a genuine human relationship with the other side before the formal negotiation begins increases the success rate of reaching an agreement by roughly 25 to 30%.
Wait, 25 to 30%? That is a massive statistical advantage just from being friendly.
Just from establishing baseline humanity. Arrive to the meeting early, chat about the weather, ask about their kids, discuss a mutual hobby, stay a little bit afterward.
Just normal small talk.
Yeah. Negotiating with someone you have a basic human connection with is exponentially easier than negotiating with a faceless adversary.
Because it builds trust?
It builds a psychological reservoir of goodwill. When the conversation inevitably gets tense later on, you can draw on that goodwill to keep the prefrontal cortex engaged and the amygdala calm.
Okay, I understand building goodwill. That makes sense. But what if the other side is just plain manipulating you?
Ah, the dark side of negotiation.
Yeah, because we've established how to play fair, how to brainstorm, use objective standards. But what if they have all the power? Or what if they're actively resorting to dirty tricks?
It happens.
If I am soft on the person in that scenario, aren't I just volunteering to be a doormat?
That is the ultimate stress test of this entire approach. It's easy to collaborate when everyone is acting in good faith. It is entirely different when you are under attack. Let's break down the defenses against adversarial behavior, starting with deliberate, dirty tactics.
You mean things like lying, high pressure sales tactics, or the classic good cop, bad cop routine?
Exactly. Or even manipulating the physical environment. The absolute best defense against a dirty tactic is to calmly and explicitly name it out loud.
Just call it out.
Yes, when you call out the tactic, you neutralize its psychological power over you. If they are aggressively tag-teaming you, you pause and say, "It seems like you two are utilizing a good cop, bad cop routine here."
Doesn't that start a fight, though?
Not if you control your tone. You don't say it angrily. You say it as a simple observation.
Okay, but what if it's a physical trick? Like they deliberately seat you in a low chair, facing a glaring window, just to make you feel small and eager to leave?
Well, if you attack the person, you might snap and say, "You deliberately put me facing the sun to mess with me, you jerk."
Yeah, that immediately starts a war.
Right. Instead, you utilize our rule. Separate the person from the problem. You say, "The sun in my eyes is incredibly distracting, and I can't properly concentrate on our discussion. Can we pause and swap seats or close the blinds?"
Well, that's brilliant.
You address the problem firmly. You remove their physical advantage, but you do it without accusing them of malicious intent.
They know you caught them, but you haven't forced them to lose face.
Exactly.
You completely disarm the trap without setting off a bomb. But what about a deeper issue, like unequal power dynamics?
Leverage.
Yeah, what if they just flat out have more leverage than you do? Say they are a massive corporation and you are just one independent contractor.
If the other side brings massive cannons to the table, you do not turn the negotiation into a shootout, you will lose.
So what's your weapon then?
Your power comes from the preparation you do before you ever walk into the room. You must develop a strong BTNA.
BDNA, okay.
Yes, that stands for Best Alternative to a Negotiated Agreement.
Let me make sure I understand how to apply this. If I'm walking into a job interview and my bank account is completely empty and I have zero other prospects, I am going to reek of desperation.
Yes, you have no power.
I have absolutely no power. But if I walk into that exact same interview, facing the exact same intimidating hiring manager, but I already have two other fantastic job offers sitting in my inbox,
Your entirely physical posture changes.
the difference is night and day.
Because true power in a negotiation does not come from how loud you are or how wealthy your company is. Power comes from your ability to comfortably walk away from the table.
That walkaway power is everything.
Your BATNA is your concrete backup plan. But here is the crucial part. You cannot just vaguely imagine a backup plan. You have to actively develop it.
Meaning,
You have to actually apply to those other jobs. You have
Yeah.
to tour those other apartments. If you don't know exactly what your best alternative is before you start talking, you are flying blind.
because your BATNA defines your absolute minimum acceptable threshold.
Exactly. Because if they offer you a salary that is worse than the offer you already have in your inbox, you don't need to get angry.
You just smile, say, no, thank you, that doesn't work for me, and you walk away.
That preparation is your armor.
Oh, I love that. So, we have dirty tricks neutralized, and we have power imbalances managed with a BAEA. What about the most difficult attack?
You mean when things get personal?
Yeah. What if they just start attacking you personally, tearing down your ideas, insulting your intelligence, getting aggressive?
It is entirely human in that moment to want to push back. They attack your idea, you aggressively defend your idea.
It's instinct.
But if they push, and you push back, you are instantly deadlocked in a test of strength. Instead, you use a technique we call negotiation jujitsu.
Jiu-jitsu, literally using their own momentum against them.
Exactly.
How do we role play that? Let's try it. Let's say I am your aggressive client.
Okay, bring it on.
I look at your presentation, I slam it on the table, and I say, this proposal is complete garbage. The pricing structure is ridiculous, and you clearly don't understand our industry.
Okay, my instinct is to say, it is not garbage, look at the data right here.
Right, which is pushing back.
But that's a trap. In jiu-jitsu, I sidestep. I let your attack fly right past me, and I redirect that aggressive energy towards solving the problem.
So what do you actually say?
I would look at you and say, you clearly have major concerns about this pricing structure. Help me understand exactly what budget constraints you're working with that make this unworkable.
Wow, okay. Honestly, as the aggressive client, that completely deflates my anger.
Because I'm not fighting you.
Right. I was bracing for a fight, and instead, you just handed me the microphone and asked me to explain my constraints. I literally have to switch from the emotional brain back to the logical brain to answer you.
Precisely. You invite the criticism instead of fighting it.
Yeah.
When they aggressively reject your idea, don't defend it. Ask them why they are rejecting it.
Which brings us all the way back to uncovering their hidden interests.
And the most powerful jujitsu move of all is asking for their advice.
Oh, asking for advice.
Yes. You look at the angry client and say, I understand my proposal doesn't work for you. If you were in my shoes, dealing with the manufacturing costs I have, what would you do?
That is incredibly disarming.
It really is.
Because it is almost impossible to keep screaming at someone who is sincerely asking for your expert advice on how to solve a mutual problem.
It flips the dynamic entirely. It forces them to step into your shoes and actively generate solutions to your problem.
It's amazing.
It all comes back to dismantling the ego and abandoning the need to win, which actually brings to mind a wonderful historical metaphor.
Oh, let's hear it.
So in 1964, an American father and his 12-year-old son were visiting London. And they were in Hyde Park, just tossing a Frisbee back and forth.
Okay.
Now, at the time, almost no one in England had ever seen a Frisbee. A small crowd gathered to watch this strange plastic disc flying through the air.
They must have been so confused.
Right. And finally, a thoroughly bewildered British bystander walked up to the father and asked, Sorry to bother you. I've been watching you for 15 minutes. Who's winning?
Oh, that's hilarious. That bystander completely misunderstood the fundamental nature of what they were doing.
And that is exactly what we do when we ask, who is winning in a negotiation? It is as nonsensical as asking who is winning in a friendship or who is winning in a marriage.
Wow, that hits hard.
If your primary focus is on defeating the other person, you have missed the entire point of the interaction. The real goal, the only sustainable goal in business and in life, is working together, tossing the ideas back and forth, and finding a solution that satisfies the underlying interests of both sides.
I couldn't agree more. It completely changes how you view every human interaction you have.
It's a game changer.
Well, that brings us to the end of our time today on the Biz English channel. We want to say a massive thank you to you, the listener, for tuning in to our YouTube channel podcast and spending your time with us.
Thanks for being here, guys.
If you found value in today's discussion and want to master more skills like this, please remember to subscribe to the channel, smash that like button, and leave us a comment down below.
We really want to hear your thoughts or, a time you successfully used one of these techniques.
Absolutely. We deeply appreciate your support. But before you close this video, we want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over today.
Something to think about.
Think about a recurring argument you have in your own life right now, whether it is a persistent tension at work with a colleague or a frustrating disagreement at home with your family. Ask yourself honestly, are you blindly fighting over who gets the orange without ever stopping to ask what the other person is actually trying to bake?